Are you a unique dancer or just like everybody else? Interesting question, huh? Hello, my beautiful subscribers. Rasa the dancer is here. And today I want to talk about us learning how to dance, learning styling, learning different things, and then have a think about whether we are actually becoming better dancers and unique versions of ourselves, or we just become one of many who look exactly the same as the teachers that we are learning from. Nothing individually interesting about us, just a clone from another teacher. Now, who to say whether it's right or wrong, who to say whether we should care at all, but it is definitely an interesting subject to talk about, so we're going to do it right now. All right, let me start with this. I truly believe that dancing is for everybody and different people dance for different reasons. And not everything is as important as sometimes I'm making these videos, because the reality is if you're just going there to have a good time, to meet your friends, to forget all the troubles you have at work, and that's it, that's absolutely fine, because dancing is a healing place where everybody should get whatever they're looking for and make their life a little bit better. So now we know this, we set that aside, and let's talk more about if you actually do care about being the best version of yourself in terms of dancing. So what is the difference learning something from a teacher, learning the techniques, learning the style, and becoming exactly like them? And what is the difference of learning those things and still being extremely unique in what you do? And is it actually important whether you're going to look exactly like your teacher? Maybe that's a good thing. And what is the difference of actually not looking like your teacher and having a very individual personal look? And is that better or worse? All of those things are super interesting to me. I have my own opinion, but of course, you sharing yours is what matters as well. So let's dive into that a little bit more. Have you noticed that on social media, if you're on it, there's a lot of people now that when they dance, you can kind of almost point who is their teacher or who is the person that they really aspire to. And that's interesting because this is what usually happens when we really, really like somebody, a professional dancer, and we're learning from that person. A lot of the times, all of the things that we like about them, we take them on board and we don't think about anything else but wanting to be like that person. And I think when that's the things that are going through your mind, when you want to be like that person, is what happens when you actually end up looking very similar to the way they dance. And there's not a lot of personal, individual things that you have to offer, or it looks like you are offering. You might even be doing different musicality, but all of the styling elements and all of the little things that you've learned from that person that you've been inspired to, it kind of just becomes you, and then we just have many versions of that person. Is that a wrong thing? I don't believe it's wrong, but I do believe that maybe we are missing out if you care. If you care about being unique, and if you care about progressing and people recognizing you as a separate individual rather than just the same as everybody else, nothing really unique there, then we should look into that. I think you could be a great dancer and a great person who styles beautifully. But what happens when there's hundreds of people who are just as nice and they look exactly the same because the styling and the way we raise the arms or the way we move or the way we execute the body movement, if it's all exactly the same, no matter how wonderful you are, it will not be noticed because everybody's the same. Does that make sense? So sometimes somebody who might not even be technically as good, but they have their personal style, might actually stand out more and than somebody who's maybe much better in terms of technique, but it's just so many that look exactly the same. Does that make sense? So I think none of it is wrong or right, but it is something that if you're in a process of developing yourself and you're very excited and you're learning styling and from all of these teachers that you really love, try to have a pause moment and think, am I learning technique, but then bringing something myself? Or am I actually becoming that person, which is great because you're going to look great, but that means so many others are the same and I'm not actually fulfilling my individual purpose in the dancing world. So it's just something I think it would be interesting to boggle with. And now let me give you a few tips if, let's say, you do want to work a little bit more on the individual style, not to become a clone. So I think it's helpful because I do the same. I haven't been born with skills. I'm learning from people and I'm inspired by other teachers, and I'm very much whatever they say, that's what I do in the workshops and classes. So I get all of the technique, I get their style. But then what I think is a good tip is when you come back at home or in the studio or something and you're on your own or with your friend that you're practicing with, I think it's a good thing to think, okay, so this is what I've learned. I've practiced it and I nailed it. How can I change it? Just a little bit. Let's say you're doing your arms like this. What if you would do like this, but then you would separate and you do something else? So just changing a little bit of what you have learned to adapt to something that you think could be cool or you think that you like, it's also amazing. What if you've learned to maybe throw hands in the air, both at the same time, but this time you think, what's going to happen if I just bend them a little bit? Does that look nice? Oh, I like that. So changing something just a little bit, it's a good way to start to building your own things from all the things that you mastered and learned, right? And another good tip as well is to remind yourself of your personality. So I always say every move, every dance, every song, everything has a personality. So if you could find what your personality is and you actually release that personality, it actually makes you stand out even if you're doing exactly the same as you've learned. So for example, I am weird. And I am not ashamed to admit it, okay? I'm a little bit weird in my life in general. I'm quirky. I'm slightly strange. So the way I approach things is a little bit strange, and I allow this to happen. I have no shame as well. That's another quality, if you must know. So I'm not afraid to put myself out there and try something that is completely bonkers, but I have also a lot of optimism. So I'm like, I'm gonna make it. And so in the process of allowing myself to be myself on the dance floor, I actually end up looking like myself rather than somebody else. But if you're in the workshop and you're learning somebody else's style and their style is, say, sexy, and you are not necessarily the person who would approach yourself as like, oh, I'm sexy. You know, everybody's sexy, but you know what I mean? It's like that thing, like we touch here, we touch here. If you approach the moves the way they are taught, then you will look the way it was presented. But if you take the same moves, but you're going to approach it in shy, or you're going to approach it in weird, or then the way you do them and the personality you bring out is actually going to look completely different. So technique might be the same and the moves might be the same, but it's not going to look the same because you're going to bring out different personality. So those are a couple of tips that I think are important if you want to find a way how to still remain yourself and unique and just be learning loads of techniques and getting better, but not becoming just another person like everybody else. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Just a reminder, the comments are there for you to let me know what you think. We all need to learn from each other, and when you write comments, other people read them. I read them, and we actually keep on improving. If I'm just talking for myself, to myself, it makes not a lot of difference. But if you participate, we grow as a community. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't, leave a comment, like the video if you actually like it. And I'm gonna leave you here with other videos, guys, where you can explore the personal style in the dancing. Now, I'm gonna send you my kiss, and I will see you soon.